Welcome to the tranquil space of still mind Dharma, where we can temporarily set aside the rushing noise of the outside world to sit down together, brew a quiet pot of tea, and listen to the most authentic beats of our own hearts. Dear friend, try to relax your shoulders, take a deep breath, and allow that breath to drift away like a gentle river, carrying with it all the sorrows of a long day. Today, we will journey together to touch a very familiar shadow, a hidden corner that perhaps everyone among us has concealed at least once. It is the feeling of absolute emptiness, right in the midst of lavish material abundance.
There is a bitterly poignant paradox in our modern life that you might also be realizing. We are living in an era where convenience has reached its absolute peak, where every need can be satisfied with a mere tap on a screen. Yet our loneliness seems to touch the very bottom of the ocean. Our closets are growing tighter, stuffed with expensive garments whose price tags have never been cut. But our souls remain bare and pitifully cold. Houses are built larger and more magnificently than ever, but family meals are devoid of laughter, leaving only an overwhelming, chilling silence. We possess more belongings than any generation before us. Our bank accounts might hold more digits, yet our eyes carry more traces of sorrow. Our sleep is more restless, and our hearts feel strangely hollow. We tirelessly trade the money earned through our health and precious time to buy things we do not truly need, solely to cover up an invisible void screaming within our chests.
That state is exactly like a person lost at sea, frantically gulping mouthfuls of bitter seawater to soothe a burning thirst. The cool water might momentarily deceive the tongue, bringing a flash of satisfaction, but immediately after, the harsh salt drains the life-giving moisture from the deepest cells, making the thirst flare up 100,000 times more fiercely and cruelly. The glamour of materialism operates on the exact same merciless mechanism. Every time we swipe our cards to purchase an expensive item to cover our sadness, a short wave of joy surges up. But when that wave recedes, what is left on the sandy shores of our soul is merely a desolate emptiness, even deeper and colder than before. We drift aimlessly in this endless loop of consumption, blinded by the thick mist of craving, losing our way back to our true, authentic selves. If you have ever explored the art of photography or painting, you will notice that a visually mature masterpiece is never a canvas densely packed with details. Master visual artists are always deeply aware of the necessity to leave exactly 1/3 or 1/4 of the frame entirely empty, creating what is known as negative space. It is precisely this empty space, holding no physical object, that creates profound depth, gathers the light, highlights the main subject, and brings a soothing sense of balance to the observer. The human heart is also a masterpiece of creation, and it too requires such negative space to breathe, to feel peace, and to harbor pure love. But out of ignorance, we are terrified of this natural emptiness. Instead of sitting down to befriend the quiet space within, we panic and throw into it all the garbage of our cravings, luxurious designer goods, all-night revelries, and the illusory gazes of admiration from others. We stuff it until our hearts become suffocated and stifled, leaving not a single crack for the presence of the present moment to enter.
Emptiness is not a disease that needs to be cured with expensive shopping prescriptions. Emptiness, when covered by the mist of misunderstanding, turns into a black hole that swallows all vital energy. But when we dare to face it and use the light of awakening to illuminate it, that very empty space becomes the genesis of all freedom. You are exhausted, not because you do not have enough, but because you are forcing yourself to carry too many things that do not belong to you, just to fill a space that was inherently born to remain empty. The piles of belongings in your bedroom, the sparkling jewelry on your body, have never had the power to embrace you on the nights you collapse crying alone. It is time for us to see clearly through this mist of illusion, to understand why the Buddha taught that the more we cling to external matter, the easier it is to lose our inner selves.
In the miraculous teachings of Buddhism, there is a profoundly deep concept known as sunyata, or emptiness. When many people hear the word empty, they immediately associate it with loss, absence, or a state of hollowness, coldness, and soullessness. But in truth, the emptiness in our souls that we fearfully run from every day stems from our misunderstanding of the universe's true emptiness. Emptiness is not the eradication of life. On the contrary, it is the source that embraces all things. Imagine a vast, boundless ocean. It is precisely because of the immense, deep, empty spaces beneath its surface that the ocean can embrace tens of thousands of roaring rivers and streams pouring into it. Our hearts carry the shape of such an ocean. The void you occasionally feel on quiet nights is not a flaw that needs to be patched with material things. It is the infinite space of awakening, a still lake ready to reflect the radiant moon of compassion and wisdom. However, because our eyes are still clouded by the thick mist of ignorance, we perceive that stillness as a threat. We panic before the vastness of our inner space and hastily mask our sorrow with the loud noises of the crowd, with tangible material objects, and with borrowed value labels from the external world. When we lack the courage to face the still lake of our own hearts, we begin to look outward for life preservers. That is when we fall into the trap of the law of impermanence. Every object and phenomenon in this world, from luxurious branded goods and expensive cars, to dazzling parties and the impulsive praises of society, are all just waves crashing onto the shore, born only to dissolve into sea foam. The very nature of matter is continuous movement and dissolution. When we try to use something impermanent and constantly changing to anchor an eternal void within, failure and shattered pieces are predetermined. Such an action is no different from trying to hold a rushing stream of water with your bare hands. The tighter you squeeze, the faster the water slips through your fingers, leaving you with nothing but empty, wet, and freezing hands. A brand new handbag might bring you a sense of eager joy for a few days. A glamorous title might make you walk with your head held high for a few months. But when those waves of emotion subside, the river of craving continues to roar and churn. It demands that you throw into it bigger, more expensive things, just to maintain a fragile sense of security that is as delicate as a water bubble. And just like that, we unintentionally trap ourselves in a weary and painful karmic loop of consumption. Karma here is not some mysterious supernatural punishment, but the very natural and fair operation of our own consciousness. When you plant a seed of perceived lack, you will harvest a forest of unceasing craving. Every time we shop, not out of the genuine necessities of life, but to hide a concealed sorrow or to assert an ego full of insecurities, we are watering the deep-rooted tree of greed. We unconsciously hand over the key to our life's happiness to inanimate objects, only to be silently manipulated by them in return. We gradually become fragile paper boats, swaying and losing direction amidst the rushing currents of flashy advertising campaigns and the illusory social standards set by others. Please understand
that material things are inherently faultless. Money itself bears no sin. Water can gently carry a boat, but it can also angrily overturn it. The fault lies in our extreme attachment to them, turning the tools of life into the ultimate goal, using them as sturdy barricades to stop ourselves from hearing the true voice screaming from our inner ocean.
To decisively break free from the grip of this harsh loop, the compassionate Buddha left us a path, learning how to turn the boat around and drop a steady anchor back into the still lake of our own souls. When you deeply contemplate and understand the mechanics of impermanence, when you recognize the miraculous nature of emptiness inherent in all things, you will no longer fear the quiet, empty spaces. You will smile, realizing that the more your heart sheds unnecessary cravings and material attachments, the lighter, broader, and more expansive it becomes. A heart uncluttered by possession and control is the freest heart on earth. It is like a river that has fully understood its own essence as water. It no longer resents the jagged rocks blocking its path, no longer frantically chases the teasing winds on its surface, but simply flows peacefully, calmly, and serenely toward the great ocean of love. When your heart is truly at peace, you can still fully enjoy the conveniences of modern life, still wear a beautiful garment, still use a quality item, but you will never again be bound or defined by them. You possess material things with awakening, absolutely refusing to let material things possess your soul. You will walk serenely through a material world full of brilliant temptations, but those misty illusions will never be able to dampen the robes of someone who already carries the shining moon of awakening within their heart.
The philosophy has become clear, and in this quiet space, as the beats of our hearts have gently settled into the rhythm of our breathing, let me borrow a wisp of mist from the past to take you back in time to an ancient tale deeply rooted in our nation's folklore. This story is not just a fragment of history, but a stunningly beautiful symbolic painting of the soul's freedom amidst the stormy seas of materialism. It is the story of a human being who once stood at the pinnacle of wealth and glory, but chose to let his heart remain as expansive as an autumn lake, without a single ripple of attachment. That person was my emptier, the extraordinary adopted son of the great Hung King.
Try to close your eyes and imagine the royal realm of those days. Magnificent palaces, silks and brocades stretching like brilliantly colored rivers, gold and precious jewels piled as high as mountains. Everywhere there were lavish banquets, the melodious sound of lutes and flutes blending with endless words of praise. In that churning ocean of material wealth, everyone yearned to dive in, to hoard, to drape themselves in glamorous shells, to fill their inner insecurities. Yet amidst this bustling prosperity, my emptier remained as tranquil as a hidden reef at the bottom of the deep sea. He lived among fine silks, but his heart was not tangled in them. He ate delicacies, but his mind was not drowned in indulgence. While those around him worried day and night about losing their privileges, fearing that the waves of jealousy in the royal court would drown their fame, he uttered a sentence that shocked the entire kingdom. Given wealth is a worry. Gifted wealth is a debt.
Just one innocent yet razor-sharp sentence tore through the misty illusion of the royal court. He understood to his very core that any material bestowal from the outside, any glory reliant on the power of others, were merely fragile bubbles on the water's surface. When the wind stops blowing, the bubbles inevitably burst. Those straightforward words were like a massive storm, sweeping away the king's favor and pushing his family to the darkest crossroads. The king, enraged, stripped him of all titles and stipends, exiling his family to a desolate, misty island far out at sea, a place with no human footprints, where there was only the roaring of the ocean and the cold, white-capped waves crashing against the shore day and night. From someone who stood below one person, but above 10,000, he was thrown into an empty, bare space, stripped of every layer of comfort and convenience.
Many would think that being pushed from the peak of fame down into the abyss of deprivation, facing the ultimate emptiness of a deserted island, would be the end, the eradication of all hope for life. The roaring waves out there, the salty, thick mist of the vast ocean, could easily make anyone tremble and collapse in despair. However, for Mai and Tim, that desolate island was not the grave of life, but rather the genesis of a journey back to the greatest inner strength. He did not cry in regret for the jade bowls and golden trays that had slipped from his grasp, for he knew perfectly well those were merely external possessions. Facing the immense empty space of the sea and sky, his heart did not ripple with a single wave of fear. On the contrary, the infinite negative space of the deserted island became the giant canvas for him to paint a masterpiece of freedom and fierce vitality.
Instead of sitting there waiting for a miracle or cursing an unfair fate, he began to befriend every wave, every drop of dew, every grain of sand. When birds flew in from the open sea and dropped strange seeds, he did not look at them with eyes of doubt, but cherished them as gifts from heaven and earth. His salty sweat, tasting like seawater, poured onto the dry ground, blending with the sweet water from the rocky crevices to nurture a new life. The watermelon vines crawled across the sand, blooming and bearing fruit, carrying within them a cool green rind like the color of the ocean, and flesh as brilliantly red as the fire of human will. The pure, sweet taste of the watermelon was crystallized from the sun, the wind, the hardship, and the unparalleled peaceful mindset of the one who grew it. That was a sweetness that no rare delicacy in the lavish palace could match, because it was not tainted with the bitter taste of anxiety, of greed, or the fear of loss.
Looking at those watermelons drifting on the waves, piercing through the thick mist to find their way back to the mainland, we see not just a miraculous fruit, but the embodiment of a liberated soul. Mai and Tiem proved to the world an indelible truth. When your heart is no longer manipulated by material things, when you no longer frantically hoard to fill the voids of ignorance, you will forge values that are eternal. True wealth does not lie in how much gold you have in your chest, but in your ability to smile peacefully at the vast ocean, even when your hands hold on to nothing. Materialism is inherently just a temporary flow through each person's life, sometimes overflowing like high tide, sometimes depleted like the receding water. If we let our minds drift along with that tide, we will forever rise and fall, suffocated and in pain. Mai and Tiem stepped out of the exhaustive loop of royal power, borrowing the very desolate emptiness of the island to single-handedly build a kingdom of peace within his mind. That island became a sacred space where there was no shadow of greed, no sighs of rivalry, only the gentle sound of ocean waves, comforting souls that had truly found the shore of awakening. Material wealth will eventually be eroded by time. Grand castles may turn into ruins, but the stillness and self-generated strength from within an unburdened heart
will always be an endless spring, watering a life of absolute joy and freedom.
We do not need to wait until we are stripped of everything by the currents of life, or exiled to an island shrouded in ocean mist like the ancients, to begin learning how to return and befriend ourselves. Right in the heart of the noisy city, amidst the brightly lit shopping malls and the promotional notifications ringing endlessly on your phone, you can absolutely build an island of tranquility for yourself. The journey of everyday practice does not require you to throw away all your assets, reject all conveniences, or turn your back on the progress of life. Buddhism does not advise us to become despairing ripples trying to run away from the ocean. It simply and compassionately shows us how to swim in the rushing currents without being submerged, how to pick up an object without the mind becoming entangled, and how to gently set it down when its karmic connection has run out.
Let us begin this healing journey with a profoundly simple act, observing the waves of emotion inside you. The next time you stroll down the street or glide your finger across a screen and a burning desire to possess suddenly surges up, stop for one beat. Do not rush to click buy, and do not rush to swipe your card. Allow yourself to create a quiet space, a soft, soothing pause between the desire and the action. In that safe step back, close your eyes, take a deep breath. Feel the cool, fresh air flowing into your lungs, and slowly exhale, as if blowing away a layer of mist that obscures your vision. Ask yourself with the utmost honesty and tolerance, do I truly need this item to serve my life, or am I just wanting to use it to patch a wounded hole in my heart? Am I genuinely thirsty, or am I just craving the illusion of fullness? When you begin to ask those questions, you are lighting a lighthouse of wisdom in the misty sea of ignorance. You will gradually realize that behind the frantic craving to shop often hides an unnamed sorrow, an exhaustion from carrying too many expectations, or a vague fear of loneliness. We have grown accustomed to using material things as rapid painkillers, but as you know, painkillers only temporarily numb the sensation. They never heal the root of the wound. It is time for us to stop drinking bitter seawater to satisfy our thirst. It is time for us to bravely sit down next to our sadness, to embrace that emptiness, like holding a lost child in the rain, instead of running away in panic and throwing expensive, soulless toys at it.
The most profound practice often comes from the art of subtraction, not addition. Just as a river that wishes to maintain its clarity and purity must know how to let go of the debris and sediment along its path, try decluttering your living space. Purify your overstuffed closets of items that have long ceased to bring joy or practical value. As you clear away the visible physical burdens outside, you are simultaneously clearing the flow of your consciousness inside. Return to your home those quiet, negative spaces so the wind can breeze through, so the light can freely dance. And then you will find your heart gradually becoming spacious and light, like an autumn lake that has just shed its morning mist. The less you cling to heavy things, the easier it is for your soul to soar in peaceful freedom.
The true joy of human life is never measured by endlessly long shopping receipts or the admiring gasps of society. That joy sprouts from the moments you are fully present with yourself and your loved ones. It could be waking up early in the morning, brewing a fragrant pot of tea, sitting and watching the dewdrops still lingering on the leaves, and feeling life circulating miraculously. It could be a simple evening meal, devoid of rare delicacies, but warm with laughter and eyes exchanging deep understanding. It is when you realize that with just one peaceful breath and a smile free of burdens,
you are already the wealthiest person in this world. No matter how many rapids and waterfalls the water in a river flows through, it ultimately finds its way back to the great sea in its most pristine purity. Your soul is the same. Let it be washed clean of the dust of greed, so it may return to its clear, tranquil essence.
On this journey, floating down the river of human life, there will undoubtedly be many times we accidentally scrape ourselves against the hidden reefs of attachment. There will be rainy nights echoing outside the porch, and an empty, lonely feeling waiting to rush back and besiege our hearts. But that is entirely okay, my fellow traveler. Just let all emotions naturally come and go, like waves crashing onto the shore and then retreating into the deep ocean. Do not judge yourself. Do not resent your own vulnerabilities. Just always remember that deep beneath the noisy, roaring waves on the surface, the ocean always preserves an eternal stillness. And that stillness, that sacred completeness, is always present right here, right now, within your very own miraculous breath.
Before we conclude our flow of confidences today, I would like to send you a request from the depths of my heart. In this quiet space, as the misty illusions have gradually dissipated, do you dare to face yourself just once? Please leave a response in the comment section below to this question. Throughout the passing years, what is the most expensive item you ever bought to try and hide a certain pain or loneliness? And looking back now, did that item truly fill the void within you? Treat this comment section as a forgiving river, where you can release the burdens and exhausting attachments you have carried for so long. Write it down to liberate yourself, to understand, and so we can collectively embrace and soothe each other's inner wounds with the pure energy of empathy. Do not hesitate to share, because here, in the space of still mind Dharma, you are always listened to, always understood, and always enveloped in the boundless spring of unconditional love. Our flow of confiding thoughts today has navigated through profoundly quiet and equally deep bends. We have collectively looked back at the genesis of human pain, where inner emptiness is desperately masked by an excess of external materialism. This life is like a sprawling painting, with endlessly interweaving patches of light and dark. There will be times we unintentionally sink in the dark mist of ignorance, swimming tirelessly after the white-capped waves of fame and wealth, only to lose the primal, pure light of stillness. But in the exact moment we startlingly realize that the lake of our inner mind is churning and suffocating under vain luxuries, we begin to learn how to let go, returning to the canvas of our soul those stunningly beautiful, quiet, negative spaces. That is the moment we step onto the ferry of peace, returning to eternal values, where love and awakening will never be swept away by the ruthless flow of the years.
Material wealth in this world ultimately is nothing more than raindrops borrowed from the clouds, falling to the earthly realm only to evaporate and vanish into the void. If we endlessly measure our happiness and price our own worth by the quantity of those impermanent drops of water, we will turn ourselves into travelers forever dying of thirst, right in the middle of the desert of greed. Do not let your heart become a cold, hollow barrel, eagerly waiting every day for luxurious items to be tossed inside, just to momentarily soothe the pain. Let your heart be a vast, tranquil ocean, knowing how to fill itself with the endless spring of compassion, empathy, and the light of wisdom. When you know how to stop in time before an impulsive desire, when you know how to cherish a soft breath, a morning waking up to find yourself still healthy and full of love, you have truly extinguished the burning thirst of the haunting consumption loop out there.
The journey of healing and finding peace again
always begins with a courageous footstep turning back to the inner mind, rejecting the manipulation of fleeting material temptations. Whenever you feel unsteady and exhausted amidst the rushing stream of life, remember that there is always a peaceful harbor waiting for you right here. The channel Still Mind Dharma, in 2026 and forever after, will always be a cool, refreshing stream, bringing applied Buddhist philosophies and lessons on untying attachments to nourish the freedom of your mind. If these whispering words today have served as a gentle drop of water, nourishing the soul of your soul, helping you realize core true values, please leave a connection with us by subscribing to the channel and continuing to follow the next flows. That is not merely an act of support, but a seed of good karma we bestow upon one another, to jointly build a community that radiates the warmth of awakening and boundless love.